Stephanie has a light that will always shine. We always pay our homage to Stephanie, and a piece of her is inside all of us.
It was supposed to be a quiet Monday morning in Los Angeles, but at 7 a.m., a Facetime call shattered the silence. On one end was Floyd Mayweather, the undefeated champion. On the other was his best friend, rapper Earl Hayes. But this wasn't a friendly chat. Earl was pacing, distraught, holding something dangerous in his hand. He looked into the camera and told the champ he was about to do the unthinkable. Can you imagine the helplessness? The strongest man in the world, screaming at a screen, begging his friend to stop. Think about your family. Don't do it, Floyd pleaded. But pain can make a man deaf to reason. Moments later, a loud noise. Then, nothing but a heavy, devastating silence. In a split second, Stephanie Moseley, a shining star, was taken from us. And the man who claimed to love her? Gone too. This wasn't just a crime, y'all. It was the explosive end to a love that had turned into a cage. If you're ready to understand the deep scars of a toxic bond, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. To really understand why this happened, you have to look at who they were before the world went dark. Let's talk about Stephanie first. She wasn't just some background face in a music video. Born in Vancouver, she came to Los Angeles with nothing but raw talent and a dream that was too big for her hometown. And wow, did she deliver. She was the it girl of the dance world. We're talking about a woman who shared the stage with Beyoncé, Britney Spears, and Chris Brown. By 2013, she was a breakout star on VH1's Hit the Floor. When Stephanie walked into a room, the temperature changed. She was electric. She was the light, y'all. Pure, undeniable energy. Then you have Earl Hayes, a rapper with talent, sure. He was signed to Floyd Mayweather's label, Filthy Rich Records. He had the connections, he had the flash, but he didn't have the hits. He was known more for who he hung out with than for the music he made. That's a heavy burden for a man with pride. But when they met around 2009, none of that seemed to matter. It was magic. Stephanie loved his edge, his protectiveness. She saw a king in him even when the music industry didn't give him his crown. And Earl, he was captivated. They looked like a power couple in the making. Beautiful, young, and ambitious. But here is where the tragedy takes root. See, love is beautiful, but it requires balance. As the years went on, Stephanie's star kept rising higher and higher. She was on TV. She was touring the world. She was the one fans were screaming for. Earl was still waiting for his big break. Imagine that dynamic for a second. Your wife is the breadwinner, the celebrity, the one everyone wants a piece of, and you're just standing in the background, watching. For a man raised in a culture that values dominance and respect above all else, that doesn't just hurt, it burns. It slowly eats away at your soul. They say opposites attract, and they did. But the sad truth is, sometimes the person you love becomes the mirror that shows you everything you failed to become. Deep stuff, isn't it? Let's fast forward to 2013 and 2014. To the outside world, Stephanie Moseley and Earl Hayes were living the dream. If you scrolled through their Instagram feeds, you saw the red carpets, the backstage passes, the designer clothes. They looked like royalty. But we all know that social media is just a highlight reel, right? It shows you the smile, but it never shows you the tears behind the makeup. Because behind the closed doors of their high-end apartment at the Palazzo East, a very different, very toxic movie was playing out. And the root of it all? It wasn't just love. It was money. And even more dangerous than money, ego. See, by this time, Stephanie's career had exploded. She wasn't just a dancer anymore. She was a star on VH1's Hit the Floor. She was booking tours, she was doing appearances, she was the face everyone wanted to see. She was bringing in the big checks, real money. Now, look at Earl. He was signed to one of the most famous lifestyle brands in the world, surrounded by extreme wealth. He was hanging out with Floyd Mayweather, a man who literally throws money around for fun. But here is the painful reality. Earl wasn't the one making it. The industry wasn't checking for his music the way they were checking for Stephanie's moves. Reports from their inner circle paint a heavy picture. Stephanie became the primary breadwinner. She was the one keeping the lights on, paying for the luxury lifestyle that Earl was so proud to show off. Now, ladies, I want you to really think about this dynamic. In a healthy relationship, a man celebrates his woman's success. He lifts her up. But Earl, he was drowning in his own insecurity. He felt small. And when a man with a fragile ego feels small, he doesn't try to grow. He tries to shrink you down to his size. That is a dangerous place to be. Can you imagine the tension in that house? Stephanie comes home after a 14-hour day on set, exhausted, body aching, just wanting a soft place to land. She wants her husband to say, "Baby, I'm proud of you." Instead, she walks into a wall of cold resentment. She walks into a man who is angry that she's shining while he's stuck in the shadows. He looked at her success and didn't see a blessing for their family. He saw it as an insult to his manhood. That is deep, y'all. That is the kind of poison that kills a marriage long before anyone files for divorce. Friends said they would fight constantly about finances. He wanted to feel like the king, but he didn't have the kingdom. So what happens? He started trying to control the one thing he could, her. The jealousy started to morph. It wasn't just about money anymore. It became about possession. When she was on stage, looking beautiful, confident, and sexy, he didn't see an artist. He saw a woman who was slipping away from his grip. He saw other men looking at her, desiring her, and he felt his control loosening. It's heartbreaking because Stephanie was loyal. She stayed. She could have left a long time ago. She had her own money, her own fame. She didn't need him for survival. She stayed because she loved him. She stayed because she remembered the man he was before the bitterness took over. She probably thought, if I just love him enough, if I just support him until he makes it, everything will be okay. We tell ourselves these lies, don't we? We think our love can fix a broken man, but you cannot fix a man who is at war with himself. The atmosphere in that apartment turned volatile. It wasn't a home anymore. It was a pressure cooker. The arguments got louder. The accusations got wilder. Earl started to convince himself that because she was so successful, she must be looking for someone better, someone on her level. This is where the paranoia sets in. When you don't feel worthy of your partner, you start assuming they are going to leave you. And that fear makes people do irrational, terrifying things. The power couple facade was cracking, and through those cracks, you could see the darkness waiting to get in. They were standing on the edge of a cliff, and instead of pulling her back, Earl was getting ready to push them both over. You know that saying, you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick? Well, Stephanie and Earl were the definition of that struggle. They didn't just have problems. They were trapped in a toxic cycle. Breakup to makeup. Scream, fight, leave, and then come back because the silence feels too heavy. They actually separated for 2 years at one point. 2 years. That was her chance. That was her window to breathe, to find someone who celebrated her light instead of trying to dim it. But she came back. Why? Because of that word we all love too much, loyalty. She believed in their bond. She thought their history was worth more than her peace of mind. Love is blind, y'all, truly blind. But when she came back, the dynamic had shifted. Earl wasn't just jealous anymore, he was paranoid. And then a specific name got thrown into the fire, a name that acted like gasoline on a burning house. Trey Songz. Rumors started swirling that Stephanie had a fling with the R&B superstar. Now, Whether it was true or not doesn't even matter at this point. What matters is that Earl believed it. And to a man like Earl, who was already feeling inferior, the idea of his wife being with a megastar like Trey, a man who had the hits, the money, and the fame that Earl desperately wanted, was the ultimate humiliation. It broke him. The home became a prison. Every time her phone buzzed, his eyes would narrow. Who is that? Where are you going? Why are you wearing that? That's not love, ladies. That is surveillance. He started questioning her every move, digging for a confession, obsessed with the betrayal that might have only existed in his head. The trust was gone, replaced by a cold, hard paranoia. And here is the most painful part to watch: the mask. If you saw Stephanie during this time, you wouldn't know she was living in a war zone. She was still smiling on the red carpet. She was still posting beautiful photos, captioning them with hearts, trying to convince the world, and maybe herself, that everything was fine. She was protecting his image while he was destroying her spirit. She was walking on eggshells in her own living room, terrified that one wrong step, one wrong text message would set off an explosion. She was waiting for the storm to pass, not realizing that she was standing directly in the eye of a hurricane that was about to tear everything apart. Monday morning, December 8th, 2014. The sun was rising over Los Angeles, promising a brand new week. Inside their apartment, Stephanie went to the bathroom to take a bath. Now, ladies, I want you to pause and think about what that moment means. The bathroom is a woman's sanctuary. It is the one place where you lock the door, wash away the stress of the world, and just breathe. You are naked, you are vulnerable, and you feel safe. It is the ultimate private space. Stephanie wasn't fighting, she was relaxing. She was preparing for her day, unaware that she would never see the sunset. But Earl had other plans. He didn't respect that sanctuary. He violated it. He walked into that bathroom not to talk, not to argue, but to end it all. And here is where the story turns into a nightmare that Hollywood couldn't even script. He didn't just want to do this in secret. He wanted an audience. He picked up his phone and FaceTimed his best friend, Floyd Mayweather. Imagine the chilling reality of that call. Floyd, a man who has faced the toughest fighters on the planet, was staring at a screen, watching his friend unravel. Earl was frantic. He told Floyd he was going to kill Stephanie. Floyd didn't just listen, he begged. Reports say he was screaming at his phone, "No! Think about your family! Don't do it, man!" Can you imagine the desperation? The undefeated champion, completely powerless, thousands of miles away, trying to talk a man down from the edge of insanity. But the demons in Earl's head were louder than Floyd's voice. In that bathroom, amidst the steam and the silence, the unthinkable happened. Earl made the ultimate, irreversible decision. He took the life of the woman who had stood by him for years. He took her while she was defenseless, in her own home, in her own bath. It wasn't a fight, it was an execution. And then, just moments later, he turned the weapon on himself. The screen went black, the screaming stopped, and all that was left in apartment 301 was a heavy, devastating silence. 2 lives, gone, just like that. It is the cruelest twist of fate. Stephanie was finally famous, finally shining, but in her last moments, she was completely alone with the man who promised to protect her. The yellow tape went up around the Palazzo East, but the real wreckage wasn't just in that apartment. It was in the hearts of everyone who picked up the phone that day. Floyd Mayweather, a man built of iron and discipline, was reportedly shattered. You have to understand, he didn't just lose a friend. He was the last witness to a horror show. He sat in the front row of a tragedy he couldn't stop. That kind of trauma doesn't just fade away when the camera stops flashing. It haunts you. It stays with you in the quiet moments. The guilt of, what if I said something different? Or, what if I hung up and called 911 sooner? Must be a heavy burden to carry, even for a champion. And for Stephanie's family, the pain is unimaginable. They sent their daughter to Los Angeles to chase a dream, to dance among the stars. And she did. She made it. But she came home in a casket. The set of Hit the Floor felt empty without her electric energy. Her costumes were still there, hanging in the wardrobe department, waiting for a season she would never film. That is the cruelest part of domestic violence. It doesn't just end a life, it steals a future. It leaves a void that no amount of tributes or memorial posts can ever fill. The music kept playing, but the dance floor was missing its queen. Stephanie Moseley was only 30 years old. She had the world at her feet and a rhythm in her soul that nobody could touch. But her story serves as a painful, necessary reminder that sometimes the most dangerous place for a woman is inside a toxic love. We often tell ourselves that if we love hard enough, if we stay loyal enough, we can save a broken man. But ladies, listen to me closely. You are not a rehabilitation center. You are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to heal himself. Your light is meant to shine, not to be extinguished by someone else's shadow. If love cost you your peace, your safety, or your self-worth, the price is too high. Walk away while you still can. Sometimes, love isn't enough to save a person. Remember that. Rest in power, Stephanie. And for all of you watching, hold your loved ones close, but hold your own peace even closer. If this story touched your soul, let me know in the comments and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next story.